Hello, my name's Andrew Brooks. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This episode we're going to be looking at Paul's alter ego, the Fireman. Thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel once again, and I'd just like to start off by saying thank you so much to all the new subscribers. The numbers have gone through the roof, quite literally. So thank you once again for subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed yet, all you need to do is just click on this little box down here and you will hear of any new video releases as and when they happen. So yeah, thanks a lot for all you people who have clicked the subscribe button and are now enjoying all the videos. So let's move on to the task in hand. We're going to be looking at Paul's alter ego, the Fireman, in today's video. Now, I have to be truthful, it's not my kind of music. It's not the sort of thing that I enjoy listening to. However, being a semi-completist, I'm nowhere near a full completist, but a semi-completist, I had to buy the albums because they had McCartney on, of course. So let's do a little bit of looking in the background of him and the Fireman alter ego. So around 1993, Paul had just finished his album Off the Ground, and I'm not sure if his manager was still Alan Crowder or if it maybe his ex-manager. Anyway, Alan Crowder, a close friend of Paul's, who incidentally had recommended the Cimarrons to Paul, and they released an album out on MPL with Paul producing it, Linda taking the cover photo. Anyway, check that out, it's great. If you've never heard a reggae version of Mull Kintyre, check it out, it's fab. Anyway, so Alan Crowder, close friend of Paul, recommended a collaboration with a musician called Martin Glover, who is otherwise known as Youth. And Martin Glover, Youth, was from a band, sort of a post-punk band called Killing Joke. And Paul had sort of wanted some remixes of some of his tracks off of Off the Ground, to issue as like a 12-inch single, remixes of them. So he wanted a couple of dance mixes off of that album. So anyway, Paul got in touch with Youth, and he basically gave him access to all the tracks from the Off the Ground album. Now, Paul specifically said you can only use what we've recorded. You can't add in your snare drums and your samples from other means. It has to be everything that was recorded during the sessions. And Youth apparently wasn't that keen on just remixing the existing tracks. This is all documented in Club Sandwich, so if you want to check it out, it's there's a whole story in there about how they got together. But anyway, this is where I've gleaned this information from. So yeah, so Youth wasn't that keen on remixing just existing tracks, but what he was keen on doing was deconstructing the album and turning it into samples, which was obviously more his thing. Paul was quite keen on this idea by the sound of it, so he actually turned over his studio at Hog Hill Mill to Youth and his production team for 4 days in October 1992. And on day one, basically they just reviewed all of the tapes that they could work with from the album sessions. However, the second day, Paul came down to the studio and he was sampled, or recorded rather, playing the banjo, Bill Black's bass guitar, the double bass from Elvis, some flutes, and even some whispering. And these were all going to be used in Youth's sampling. Now, looking at some of the album tracks that were used, so he used some vocals from the track Cosmically Conscious, as well as picking off some bass riffs from various album tracks. He even used some poetry that had been recorded way back when, in the Wings times, for the Back to the Egg album, for the track The Broadcast. So there's some of that in there as well, which I'll have to play again, I guess, to check it out. So these were used for some of the sampling, and you know, he just was left to do his own device. When Paul, Linda and the kids returned to the studio, apparently they'd been to the sort of Buddy Holly Week in Bath. They held a concert there and held the Buddy Holly Week. Normally it's in London, but this time it was in Bath, as Linda had a photograph exhibition there. So they returned from Bath, and Paul, Linda and the kids went into the studio, and apparently they were just blown away with the creations that Youth had done, just from the album samples and the stuff that Paul had recorded for him. Now, obviously the idea was for a 12-inch single of a couple of tracks, but Paul wasn't happy with that. Now, he'd heard all these fantastic recordings, and at the time he wanted to put it out as an LP. So that LP became their first collaboration, which was this one up here. We'll have a look at. There we go. So it's called Strawberries, Oceans, Ships and Forest, and then, as you can see, it's just a plain red cover with the start of Strawberries written there. You turn it over, it's a green cover, Strawberries, Ocean, Ships and Forest. And it came out under the pseudonym of the Firemen. Now, they've never kept it secret. They've always said, yeah, it's Paul McCartney in Youth, but that's just the name that they wanted to use. So, yeah. There it is. So this is a UK copy, original. Obviously it's never been, to my knowledge, it's never been reprinted. It's a double album, so I'll take these out for you. There we go. So they just come in plain white sleeves. One album is, well, they're both clear vinyl, as you can see. This is the second album, and it's on a green label. There we are. And this has got things like Arizona Light, Celtic Stomp. The other side has got Strawberries, Ocean, Ships, Forest, 444, and Sunrise Mix. So that's disc 1. And however, disc 2 has got, instead of a green label, of course, it's got a red label. Hence the green and red on the cover. And there we are. And as you can see, it's fully transparent. So this has got Transpiritual Stomp, Translunar Rising, Transcrystalline and Pure Trance. They're the tracks on it. And there we go. Yeah, so it's basically described as an ambient trance music album. For my liking, it's a little bit repetitive. I'm guessing that's because Paul said he wanted 2 tracks mixed and not to have a whole album, so you know, he gave him lots of the same thing. But I guess that's the trance aspect of it, isn't it? If it's a little bit repetitive, might put you in a trance. Yeah, so the album was issued like that. However, I do have another copy up here, and as you can see, this is just a plain white cover. It's still got Strawberries written in red. Turn it round, and on the back it's got it written in green, the rest of the title. This is a numbered, it's a limited edition number of 369, and I was always under the impression that this was a promo copy. There's nothing on here to say it is promo, but the album is exactly the same, as you can see. It's just red and white and green and white instead of the like the other one. So that's that. Yeah, it's exactly the same. There's no difference. But so that's Strawberries, Ocean, Ships and Forest. One single did come from the album. I haven't got it. It's Transpiritual Stomp is the single, and so that's all I can really say about that one album. The next album that came out, so in spring 1998, Paul's fan club magazine Club Sandwich, there was a little hint that Paul was back in the studio. There's an article written by Jeff Baker, basically like a little hint of what's going on in Paul's studio. I can't tell you. What sort of music it is, I can't tell you. But again, it was a little hint that it might be some trance inspired stuff. And the actual title is very similar to a track off of Macca 3, McCartney 3, and it's called, the actual title of the article is Do You Want a Trance? So yeah, it's very similar to one of Paul's tracks off of his latest album. But anyway, going back to 1998, so yeah, there was a hint that Paul was in the studio again experimenting with trance music. Now this later resulted in the album Rushes, which is this one here. It's a little bit more of a cover, as you can see, rather than just a plain one. It's actually labelled the Fireman on the front cover, and on the back cover there's the track. So we've got things like watercolour guitars, Palo Verde, Aura, Veda, Fluid, Apple Tree, Cinnabar, Amber, Bison, 7am and Watercolour Rush. So that's the album cover. It's an original UK release, and when we look inside we have some nice glossy inner sleeves, one of which I'm going to cover up because I'm fully aware that people may be offended, and this is the one. So this is one side of it, and I don't really know how I can do it. Oh yeah, I'll do it like this. So yes, there is a naked woman on the reverse side of that sleeve, but I won't show it because I don't want to offend the YouTube people. So just taking the album out, there we are. So we can see what the label looks like there, and this is the other one, which is just quite very simple, plain and red, yellow and black, yellow and red I mean, and yeah, there's the label on that one, and that one. Why Fireman, you may ask, and indeed someone did, and they just said, well, why not? So yeah, that's the name they chose, and that's the name they stuck with. So yeah, so similar to Strawberry's album, Rushes this time saw Youth bringing music to the studio as opposed to using Paul's music that he'd already recorded, and he just wanted Paul to bring some new sounds to the studio for this particular album. So again, he sampled him doing various different sounds. So there was a single released called Fluid, released in 1999, and it is quite collectible these days. It does come with a red elastic band, but I've removed the elastic band as it's quite fragile. So this is the sleeve, and yeah, the Fireman Fluid. It's knitting, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Sawney remixes on that side, and on this side they are numbered. This is number 2577, but again it's an original 12-inch single remix. So what I'll do is, first of all, I'll show you the record. That's the that's the two sides. It does open up into some sort of gatefold malarkey, as you can see here, and on the other side it's just quite a simple picture of a fireman, and there we are. Yeah, this is quite collectible these days. I'm not sure how much they go for, but I think it will probably cost you a pretty penny if you didn't buy it at the time. So yeah, that should be held together with a red elastic band, which over time has obviously got frayed and is very fragile. I still have it, I just don't use it to keep the record together anymore. So yeah, so that's the 12-inch single that came from the album Rushes, and that's called Fluid. Now, moving on, Paul and Youth did work together in, must have been about 2000. Peter Blake, the artist who photographed Sgt. Pepper's and all that, asked Paul to provide an album to accompany his artwork exhibition. So Paul made an album. It's a 5-track CD called Liverpool Sound Collage. Now, these 5 tracks on the CD have Paul working with other artists, and one of the tracks, now get this for a title, is called Real Gone Dub, Made in the Manifest in the Vortex of the Eternal Now. So that's Real Gone Dub, Made in the Manifest in the Vortex of the Eternal Now. And it sees Paul reuniting with Youth. However, It's not credited to the Firemen, but I thought I would include it as the Firemen are Paul and Youth. So here we have it. This is said CD, Liverpool Sound Collage, and that's the disc there, and then on the back. So this disc only features one track with Youth. The others are Plastic Beetle, which is Paul McCartney and the Beatles, which has got loads of little samples and little snippets of in studio chat, which is great. You've got Peter Blake 2000, which is done by the Beatles and Super Furry Animals. Again, another one with little sort of samples. Then you've got Real Gone Dub with Youth, and that's a 16 track. Most of these are quite long, so that's a 16-minute track. Next you've got Made Up, which is Paul McCartney and the Beatles, again sampling that sort of thing. And then you've got Free Now, which features Paul McCartney, the Beatles and Super Furry Animals. I'd like to say this is a listenable CD. Unfortunately, I don't find it very listenable. There's lots of, it starts off with people being just sort of talking and their little snippets of conversation, apparently recorded around Liverpool. The Youth track, I can only describe it as a sample of a choir, samples of Paul talking, and electronic noises all placed over a drum track. I guess if the Beatles' legendary Carnival of Light was recorded in the 2000s, it might have sounded something like this. I've never heard it, but for me, that's the sort of thing that it sort of conjures up in my mind. So that's Liverpool Sound Collage, and that's from 2000. Now, 10 years after working on Rushes, in 2008, the Firemen get back together again, Paul and Youth, and they collaborate again on an album called Electric Arguments. And this time, Paul was brought in for his vocal skills. So here we have the album here, and this is quite a nice package, this, if you haven't got it for the packaging at least. So it is numbered, 7442 is my number. So again, it's a double album, and inside, I'll show you the inside in a minute. It comes with a book showing Paul and Youth working in the studio. It's also got a CD of the album as well, so you're not missing out if you only have CDs, if you want to buy the vinyl as well. Now there is a deluxe version, and that has a CD with all the tracks, and that enables you to do remixes. Now I don't have a copy of that. It comes in a nice metal sort of tin, and yeah, enables you basically to mix your own Fireman track. So we'll take the record out, and I can show you this record. There's no nudity in this one. So here we are. Oops, it helps if I hold it the right way around. So that's the gatefold inside, and it helps if I hold it the right way up. There we are. As you can see, it's some sort of like fire engine maybe. And inside, as I said, we do have a book there, and that's Paul and the Firemen there. I'll show you this. It's not a very big book, so I'll just show you the pictures. As you can see there, not only do they record music in the studio, by the looks of it, they also do some painting together as well. There we are. Which looks pretty cool. And this is one of the inner sleeves, Fireman, and this is just on regular black vinyl. Here. And I need to replace these sleeves with paper ones, because these ones are getting ripped. And then this is the second disc, Electric Arguments, and again it's just on black vinyl. Like that. And as I did say to you, it does come. Reach in and get it. It's in here somewhere. Please bear with me. There we go. And there's the CD of the album Fireman. great. So from this album there were a few singles. I'll run through the track list actually. I haven't run through the track list with you. So we've got Nothing Too Much, Just Out of Sight. You've got Two Magpies, Sing the Changes, Travelling Light. Then you've got Highway, Light from Your Lighthouse, Sun is Shining, Dance Till We're High, and then the last record is Lifelong Passion, Is This Love, Lovers in a Dream, and then the other side is Universal Here, Everlasting Now, and Don't Stop Running. So from this album we did get a couple of singles. We had Sing the Changes in 2008 and Dance Till We're High a year later in 2009. So that is the Fireman. If you know of any more releases, let me know. Drop some more comments, and I love reading your comments, and if I can I'll answer them. This is the Fireman. Now there are other experimental albums out there done by Paul. I mean, you've got things like Twin Freaks, you've got music he did for the ballet, as well as his classical stuff. So we'll probably be featuring them in a future episode. But that draws a close to this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, give us some thumbs ups or subscribe. Please subscribe anyway. Over here now there should be some videos listed, things that you probably would be interested in if you haven't already seen all of the videos. But thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you next time.